Hi, teacher.
It's already
All
time.
right, hello everyone. So now we will start the class. Okay, so hello
I'm
everyone.
back.
Hi Liam. All right, I can see that you're back. That's awesome. Okay, so hello everyone. Just to before we start the class today, do we have any new students in this? Because I can see. Oh, hello, Ginny and Lucas. I see you are a new student. That's awesome. I'm very glad to have you here. And also Claire also. So yeah, welcome to this class. So I'm pretty sure in this class, you guys already know what we do. So, oh, okay, so yeah, okay. So basically, in this class, I teach biology, okay? And a little bit more about myself is my name is Jimmy, and when you have questions, you can always ask me. Just raise your hand, and you can call on my name, and I will answer your question.
Wait, are we still gonna do a GIMP kit after we review?
Yeah, but maybe next lesson. Actually, we'll do a blood kit for this lesson because I didn't really prepare a gim kit for
My
this
God,
one.
look at it. I need blood coins.
Yeah. Anyways, so yeah, Ginny and Lucas, are you guys two people listening on this class in this class? Hello?
I think they're muted.
Oh, I think you're muted.
Oh, wait, no, they are.
I said my sister's right now at a soccer game, so only I am here.
Okay, awesome, Lucas. Okay, so yeah, but basically, in this class, I teach biology, and if you have any questions, you may ask me. But yeah, my name is Jimmy, and welcome to this class. I'm very happy that you are here.
同时介绍一下自己多大第一次来。
All right. Anyways, so yeah, if you don't know, right now we're on lesson 4, which is our fourth lesson, our fourth week of this class. So we are talking about cell structure and function. But
Wait,
last lesson we talked about taxonomy, which is this thing. There's a lot of information, but don't worry. But we all went over this last week. But yeah, anyway,
can you send link to us?
yeah. So today's lesson, also every lesson I will send this Google Slides link, like the slides that I teach on to you guys so that you guys can follow along or take notes and stuff. So in this class we do have to take notes, which means that we do write down some of the stuff that I basically present to you guys. So if everyone has like a piece of paper or a pencil, that would be awesome. And Lucas, if you would like to introduce yourself, you may do that.
Wait, do I still
Hmm?
need my biology notebook?
Oh yeah, of course, but you can just get like a new one or your
Well,
old one.
in
Okay.
our cells, microscopic things that make up your body.
Yes, they are. So that's a very good question. So cells are microscopic things that make up your body. That's a really good observation. But yeah, but first, let's review before we go on to actual like talking about cells, let's talk about let's talk about the lesson that we learned from last week. So last week we talked about biological classification and essentially I remember from like our other lesson, I think it was like lesson 2 or something. So we talked about the introduction to biology, right? But essentially in biology, right, we have sort of basically biology is just the study of life, right? Everyone knows that. And again, this
Yeah.
is also review, but biology is the study of life. And a biologist is someone who studies biology, right? They study living things, and living things are called organisms. So you guys are going to hear organisms a lot in this class because organisms are just basically another name for living things. So here are some vocab words for you guys to look at. So biology, study of life and living things. Biologists are people, right? Scientists who study biology, and organisms are the living things, right? So they all are related to each other, all of these words. So some organisms, right? Like every single living thing, that's what biology studies and biologists study. All right.
Is
So
biology life science?
Yes, exactly. It is a life science. So yeah,
Because that I learned the Latin or Greek word bio means life.
Teacher, we're actually kind of learning biology in school.
oh, that's awesome. So yeah, you guys can definitely use some of the knowledge in this class. And like, your teacher would be really happy, if you
Mhm.
just use some knowledge in this class and then show it to the class, show it to your class. But
Mhm.
essentially, yeah. So what Lucas just said, biology comes from the Greek word bios and logia. So bios means life, right? So whenever you
Yeah.
hear the word bio, that just means life, right? And logia means the study of, right? So logia, this is just a little English lesson. Logia means life. Sorry, logia means the study of, which just basically just means if you combine these two words together, these two Greek words together, you get biology. And biology literally translates to the study of life. And logia is also logic is also one of the English words that are related to logia. Logic just basically means well, I mean, I'm pretty sure everyone knows what logic is, right?
I
So
think we all know.
yeah, but basically, just a little bit of English lesson, but it is very important to know the or where the words came from, because then you would basically sort of like remember the words better and resonate with it better. So it's always good to study. It's always good to know what the words like come from. Okay, so we also talked about different type of biology, which is what we did last 2 weeks ago. But these are not that important. But what we did talk about was taxonomy, right? Okay, so this was our lesson from last week, taxonomy. But essentially, taxonomy is just the study of classifications of animals. It's basically how scientists put living things into like different categories of stuff, right? So in normal biology classes, you guys probably wouldn't get a taxonomy lesson. Even in high school, you have to like sort of, I
Kind
guess,
of.
yeah, so like there won't be a lot of taxonomy classes, but in my class, I do teach taxonomy because I feel like it's a really good place to start. Because a lot of animal names, right? Their scientific names, you need to look at their classification, right? And classification just basically means animals being classified into how closely related and how similar they are. So yeah. So okay, so let's just review our lesson 3 from last week. Um, Basically, all you guys need to know from lesson 2 is that biology is just a study of life. Biologists are people who study biology, and living organisms are the living things. And I see that there's another student who just joined, Emmer. So right now we're just reviewing what we learned last week and the week before. So if you would take out a notebook and a pen or pencil, that would be awesome. Okay, so any questions before I move on to the next part of our review?
No.
Okay, awesome. All right, so last week we talked about what classification is in biology. And again, classification just means how animals are like sort of ordered based on how similar they are. So if you get like an animal that looks similar to another animal, you would put them closer together in the classification table. But we'll take a look at this chart. So we can see here classification, right? We can see that we got the definition. Basically, classification is the process of like living organisms, right? Living things being like organized, right? So here we have an example. Cats and lions are closely related, right? They're all sort of related, right? So they are pretty much put in the same classification levels. And the
These are
classification,
different types of biology.
what was that, Lucas?
Different types of biology.
Yeah, there are different types of biology. So that was the
Like
oh, what was that?
source biology, cells, lots of trillions of cells before you know.
Yeah, so like microbiology is another type of different biology. So I didn't really include that, or sorry, pathology is also one of those types of biology that studies like small things. But yeah, these are basically just the different, like the general types of biology. We also have physiology, pharmacology, all of that stuff, right? All these different types of biology.
This
So
is
these
just
are pretty
the
cool.
arm.
Hmm.
A
Yeah.
vaccine makes antibodies to kill germs.
Yes, so yes, pathology is basically a study of like making diseases or sorry, making medicines to cure diseases. So that's a pretty good observation. But yeah, there are many different types of biology. And last lesson we talked about taxonomy, right? Study of classifications of
Mhm.
organisms. So that's what we are reviewing right now.
Oh,
Okay, so we talked about the different types of classifications. So there's actually 8 types of classifications, okay? So 8 types of classifications, they're domain, kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, and species. But we only focus on these 4 in my class because the other 4 are kind of more complicated. So we're only focusing on these 4 right here.
okay. Oh,
Okay,
those.
so I'll just briefly explain what these basically are. So the higher you go on this table, right? The higher you go, so these are all like classifications for animals. The higher you go, the more animals there are in them, and the lower you go, the less and more specific the animals are basically within them. So I'll give you guys an example. So if we go to the top most classification order, right? We talked about this last week. Order. Um, our humans are a part of the order called primates, right? So this is just another name for a group of animals that basically have large brains, right? Over here, large brains, right? So that's basically what the order is. And we also have another one, families, right? Families are the one that are second to highest order that we are learning about, or sorry, classification that we're learning about. And the family that we are in is hominids, right? Um,
Mhm.
so basically, hominids are known to have larger bodies and they have no tails and they eat both plants and other animals. So this right here is a monkey. It is not a hominid. It is a different type of, it is a part of a different family, right? And
Is the second one hominidity?
yes, it is. So you can see it is larger. It has no tails, and if you guys don't know, chimpanzees, they eat both animals and plants. So this guy over here on the right, right, this is a chimpanzee. It is a hominid, and this one over here is not a hominid. It is another type of family. It is part of another type of family called simians.
Teacher, I have a question.
Yes, Liam.
Why is that monkey trying to jump off a cliff?
I have no clue, but maybe it's just having fun.
But
Okay. Anyways, so we also talked about genus, which is the second lowest classification. It is this one. So then again, this is just review, and this lesson is not as important as the lesson that we will basically learn today. So it isn't the most important lesson. It's just like sort of letting you guys get the feel of how biology is going to be. But basically, genus is the second lowest one, and it's lower than family. So there's less animals, right? There's less animals than family. So genuses, we are a part of the Homo genus. Chimpanzees, they're a part of the pangenus. So we are now not in the same genus, right? We are not the same animals, so we are not the same genus. Now, the Homo genus, right? Let's see the characteristics for the Homo genus. They're composed of animals that walk on 2 legs and can make tools. So all other animals of the hominidae family and primates order cannot make tools. They cannot walk on 2 legs. Like they can't walk on 2 legs forever, sort of like that. Anyways,
What has more animals than classes, but lesser than kingdom?
what was that, Lucas? I couldn't hear you. Hold on.
What type has more animals than classes, but less than kingdom?
Okay, so I see. So I think you said which animal or like which classification has uh less or like sorry more animals than what was it class?
Okay, now got it.
Right. Okay, so yeah, like that. But basically, domain or kingdom is this part and domain is this part. But this is the full chart. But yeah. Okay. So, genus, right? We are part of the Homo genus and oh, okay. But anyway, so yeah, that is the um the abilities of like the Homo genus. Okay. Let's talk about species. So species is the lowest classification. Species only have one type of animal. Okay. So species, let's see. So we'll talk about the Homo species, which is us. Okay. Or sorry, the Homo genus. So remember, we're still talking about the genus while talking about species. Essentially, um, species, right? They only have one animal, and that's us, humans, right? And we are part of the species Homo sapiens, right? So let me find Homo sapiens. Sorry, where was
Can we
it?
watch the video?
Oh, videos? We already watched it last week, so I don't think we can watch it this week. So sorry. Because that would take a little bit too much time. But you can watch the video if you want in your spare time. The slides is in the chat. So I will send that to you right now. Okay. So if this lesson is a little bit confusing, I know it is kind of because this specific study is pretty complicated, which is why I sort of scaled everything down. So this lesson won't be as important as other lessons, or specifically the lesson we will talk about today. But anyways, so species, they're the smallest and most specific classification, and we are part of the Homo sapiens species. So yeah, that's basically species. They only have one animal. And some more specific, oh yeah, and also the naming for scientific names. So there's a lot of words, but I'll sort of shorten everything down. But
Who is
there's
that guy?
it's this guy who discovered the classification system.
Oh,
Anyways, but you guys know how animals they have scientific names, right? Animal scientific names, right? Like sort of like you know how they only have two words? Or sorry,
on the
wait,
mega? Oh,
sorry, wait. So if we look at the wait, hold on, this is not really a good example. Human scientific. Okay, so you guys know how the scientific names of most animals have basically two words, right? So this is us, we're Homo sapiens. Now, the reason they have two words is because the first word of the animal is the genus that they're a part of. So if we go back to genus, right? So this is us, right? We are Homo, right? Over here. So that's our first the first word in our scientific name of every single animal is their genus names, and us is Homo. And then they have their species name for their second one, sapiens, right? I didn't really put oh yeah, sapiens, right? So Homo sapiens genus and the species that we are at. So that's for most animals. Some animals they may have more more
can we
words
look
in
at the
their scientific
images?
names. Huh?
Can we look at the images?
Yeah, so we can see here there's different types of humans, right?
I
Like
want to look at the other image, like in the image box.
oh, image box, like this, which one?
So, like it says image on the third one.
Oh, this one? Like these?
Yeah.
Yeah, so basically, oh yeah, so here, see, this is a pretty good example. Scientific name of human being, right? Homo sapiens, we have the genus and the species, basically. Also, please don't draw on the board. I will disable an annotation. But anyway, so yeah, this is how the name gets sort of picked for most animals. Okay, so that is the end of our review session for last lesson. So then again, this lesson is not really as important as the one we will talk about now, but because it's not really following the actual like curriculum or sort of like guide for like biology. So yeah, we'll talk about cells now. Okay, so before we go on, I do want everyone to go to a new page and write down the title and the lesson number of this lesson. So I'll give everyone a few minutes to do.
下来，
Can we do it looking?
抄下来，写在下面的，
Actually, we'll do a booklet at the end of the class so that we will have enough time.
CTURE，
I'm not gonna be here at the end of the class.
Oh no. Okay, well, I mean, next week we're gonna do GameKit,
提醒
so that should be a good.
I like to look it better.
FUN，function，
写好要写清楚的。
All right.
Do one
So,
after review.
what was that?
We do one after review.
Yeah, so we'll do a game kit next week after review.
I want bullet kit this week.
Hmm. Or we could do a game kit and a bullet kit next week.
Mhm.
All right. So, is there anyone who still needs more time to write? So just these. Okay, I'll move on now. Okay, so what should you guys sort of expect in this class? Basically, we're gonna talk about guided note taking, right? So I will guide you guys to take down notes. And we'll also talk about what makes up the cells, right? Anatomy, right? Anatomy is another vocab word. Basically just means what an animal or living thing is made of, right? So we're gonna talk about what cells are made of. We're going to talk about what organelles do. Organelles is a pretty interesting word, right? But I'll talk about more about what organelles are, and we'll talk about what they do. So yeah, we'll talk about cell biology, and we're also going to draw your own cells at the end of the class. Yay. All right. So, um, let's talk about the introduction and roles of the cells. Okay. Okay, so what is a cell specifically? So, I'm pretty sure that, or sorry, so basically, what is a cell? In biology, cells are the smallest living thing, right? Smallest unit of life that can live on its own and it basically makes up all living organisms and tissues of the body. So what does all of this mean? Basically, it means that cells are the smallest living things that can exist on its own. So you cannot go any lower than cells. There are no other living things that are smaller than cells, right? So cells are the only thing in the entire world that can live on its own. It is the smallest unit of life. That basically means it is the smallest living thing that you could ever find in the world. You can't go any lower than that, right? But yeah. And cells, they make up all living organisms and every single tissue of the body. And tissue just basically means like for example, like your skin, right? Your skin is a type of tissue. Um, like all that stuff, right? But basically, we have cells over here. This is a human mouth cell, right? Or cheek cells.
The
Basically, yeah, so these cells make up your mouth, right? So if you scrape a little bit of your mouth and you put them under a microscope, you will see these guys, right? And we'll talk about what these little dots are inside of them in just a few seconds here. But essentially, and then again, just to review, cells are just the smallest unit of life, right? This basically means that
is that blue thing a core of the cell?
yeah, so it is the core of the cell, but there's another word to describe this little blue dot. So we'll talk about that more in a few slides. Okay, so yeah, this is a pretty good pretty good definition of what a cell is, and I do want everyone to take some notes. And then again, if you guys weren't here a few lessons back then, you guys don't have to take down everything. You guys don't have to write down everything. Just write down the main idea. Just like basically write down things that you need to remember, right? So you could literally put bullet points. So for example, you could put cells are smallest units of life, right? Something like that. And then you can go on to the next bullet point, right? Like make a little dot on your paper and then write a bunch of stuff after that, like or something like they make up all organisms, right? Right? They make up all organisms. Like that's how I take notes, and that's how most people take notes too. And it's a really good way because you don't have to like you don't write down everything, right? You write down the parts that matter. You write down the parts that you actually need to remember, that you actually like sort of like need to know, right? That's basically what taking notes is. It's not writing down everything, it's just writing down what you need to take down.
Bye, teacher. I have to go. I have to go.
Wait, was that Liam? Sorry.
I have to go to sleep.
Okay, that's okay. So yeah, I'll see you next week. And if you want to take notes, the slides in the chat, you can always take notes on that. But yeah, goodbye.
No, I'm still gonna be here.
Oh, you are? Okay, that's awesome. Okay. All right, so this is basically what a cell is. All right, so now let's talk about what happens when cells come together and make basically how cells come together and start forming things, right? We all know that cells, they make up our organisms, right? They make up our bodies. Um, Basically, when cells they come together and they basically clump up, they become tissues, right? Tissues. Here's a pretty good example. So you got the singular cell, right? You guys can see here, right? Single cell. And after this cell sort of like clumps up with other cells, they become tissues, right? Which is this. This is basically just cells connected to each other to basically make like a larger structure, right? So one cell and like one cell isn't much, but if a bunch of cells come together, they become something else that is much more bigger. And this is basically it. This is a tissue.
Many cells, tissues, organs, all organs, organism.
Yeah, so essentially you get one cell, right? Or sort of many cells, right? A lot of cells, when they come together, they become tissues, which is this thing over here. And when many tissues, right? Many of these guys, like maybe like a few thousands or a few millions of these tissues, and they come together, they become organisms or organs. Organs are these things, right? Like organs like your heart, lungs, stomach, your brain, all that stuff. And all of the organs in your body, when they come together, they become an organism, which is you, a living thing, right? So essentially the main idea of all of this the main idea of this slide is just talk about how one cell isn't that much, but if a lot of cells come together, they can form a living being, like a big living thing. So it's kind of crazy to imagine that your brain is literally like your thoughts, all of your memories are literally just made up of smaller living things. So you yourself is not just one living organism. It's actually billions of living organisms just sort of like clumped together to make like this organized structure that is you. So yeah, it's kind of crazy how all of your memories and everything that you experience are basically just clumps of cells working together in like an organized manner. So that is kind of crazy to think about. And yeah, that's basically the main idea of what cells are. When they come together, they form tissues, and when tissues come together, they form organs. And when organs come together, they form a living being, which is an organism. Okay. So I'll give everyone So I'll give everyone a few more seconds to sort of talk about write everything down. And I see Anna says something in the chat. She says we blow our noses with tissues. So yeah, just to clarify, so the tissues we're talking about right now are not the same as like the tissues that we blow our noses with. So the tissues we talked about right now is basically groups of cells working together, right? And that the tissue you guys are talking about is basically like these paper that are made from wood. So tissues can have different types. So in like English, words can have different meanings, but they can like basically be spelled the same. So tissues in this case just means like clumps of cells working together, right? Like this. Okay, so let's move on. All right, so we'll talk about what the insides of a cell, like what the cell is made up of. So before we continue, I just want to talk about what we call the things that make up a cell, right? The definition of what makes up a cell, or sort of like that, if that makes sense. But essentially, there's organs inside of a cell. right? Organs inside of a cell. And I'm pretty sure everyone knows what organs are. They're stuff that do things for you, like your heart pumps blood, your brain helps you think, and all that stuff, right? And there are things inside of the cell that help, that sort of act similar like a brain, sort of act similar like your stomach, your heart, all that stuff. And these things are called organelles, right? Now, organelle literally means small organ, right? They are small organs that help the cell function. And basically what this sentence means is that um, they're literally organelles are small organs that help the cell do things, right? It's just organelles are just like the heart, brain, and lungs, except they're like way more smaller, right? And the definition of an organelle are organs or parts of a cell, right? Parts of a cell, that basically means what the cell is made up of. So we have an animal cell over here, right? A drawing of an animal cell. And these are all of its organelles, all of these names. And we'll talk more about what these names mean in a few seconds. So right now, I just want everyone to just write down this, organelles, the organs or parts of a cell. So write this down in your notebook or on a piece of paper that you can basically interact with. So I'll give everyone a few seconds to do this. So just write down only this, nothing else. These, you guys don't have to write down. You guys can, but what I want you guys to write down is just these parts, right? Just remember the word organelles. And to better remember these words, just remember organs, right? Stuff inside of your body, right? And outside of your body. Your skin is a type of organ. So organs, to remember organelle, just think of the word organ. And after that, you'll remember organelles. Okay. Right, so Anna said there are things smaller than cells. Yes, there are things smaller than cells, and we'll talk more about those things that are smaller than cells in another lesson, right? Okay, so actually there are smaller things. There are things smaller than organelles, okay? And those things we'll talk about more in the next lesson. But just know that organelles are not the smallest things. There are things smaller than organelles, right? So we'll talk about what organelles are made of. So that would be fun. That would be really fun to talk about what organelles are made up of. So we're talking about what cells are made up of, what cells are, and after that we'll talk about what the things make up organelles, right? Stuff that makes up what cells are made up of, if that makes any sense. Okay. So we'll move on. Okay, so let's talk about the parts of a cell, all right? AKA the organelles of a cell. So today we're only going to talk about an animal cell, all right? Nothing else, just an animal cell. No plant cells, no fungi cells, right? No mushroom cells, just animal cells, okay? So these are all the parts we're going to talk about. Cell membrane, mitochondria, cytoplasm, ribosome, and nucleus. So these words are kind of big, and you guys probably have never seen these words before, but that's okay because I am here to help you guys learn these words. So let's first talk about the cell membrane. Okay, so what is the cell membrane? So the cell, right? A cell is surrounded by this thing called a cell membrane. You guys can see here on the bottom left image, this is the cell membrane. It's sort of like a thin membrane, right? So a cell membrane sort of allows things to pass through or not pass through a cell, and it provides protection to the cell, right? This is just a general definition of what a cell membrane is. It's literally just something that surrounds a cell, right? And it helps things pass through. But that's all you guys need to know. This is what a cell membrane is made up of, but it's a little bit complicated. You guys can see here, there's a lot of stuff, right? A lot of things, right? You got these little guys, which are called phospholipids, but those are kind of complicated, so we will not talk about those in this class. We'll just talk about what cell membrane does. So cell membrane allows cells, allow things to pass through the cell, or it doesn't let them pass through. And it provides protection for the cell. So if you touch your skin right now, right? If you touch your skin, that is basically the cell membrane of your skin, right? You're touching your cell membrane, right? But most of the skin on your surface are just dead cells. And yeah. So that's what the cell membrane is. I do want everyone to write down some things. So please write down some things over here, right? Cell membrane. and then the definition for it. So I'll give everyone a few seconds to do this. And if you guys have any questions, please ask. Okay, so we will now move on. Okay, so we talked about cell membrane. Now we'll talk about the cytoplasm. So beyond the cytoplasm, right? After the cytoplasm, right? Wait, sorry, no, beyond the cell membrane, like inside of a cell membrane, we have this thing called cytoplasm. And cytoplasm is literally like the fluids inside of a cell, right? It's sort of like water. It's mostly water, but it does have like some salts and proteins, right? And the proteins in the cell, right? The proteins in this fluid called the cytoplasm makes the cytoplasm sort of like jelly, right? So it's like basically a liquid, but it's kind of like soft, sort of like that, right? If you guys know what like jellies are, but it's like jelly-like, right? It sort of feels like jelly, looks like jelly, but that's basically what the cytoplasm is. It's basically the fluids inside of the cell, um, and it helps keep the cell look like a cell, right? Like it helps the cell make up its shape, right? It helps keep the cell its shape.
Jimmy, we're leaving. Bye bye.
Okay, that's okay. So yeah, bye bye, Ryan. I'll see you guys next week. Okay. Anyways, so yeah, but that's basically what the cytoplasm is. And the cytoplasm, it's a jelly-like fluid that's inside of a cell, right? And that's all you guys need to know about cytoplasm. So I do want everyone to only write down this part. Just ignore this part. This is just basically what's saying what the cytoplasm is made of. But just know that cytoplasm is a jelly-like fluid inside of a cell, and it helps keep the cell its shape. So I'll give everyone a few seconds to do that. All right, so yeah, that's basically cytoplasm. Okay, so we'll move on now. All after the cytoplasm, we'll talk about mitochondria. So mitochondria, okay? What is the mitochondria? Um, if you guys know what mitochondria is, you guys probably get this reference, but the mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. It turns sugar and oxygen into usable energy that keeps our bodies alive. So I'm pretty sure you guys know what sugar is, right? It's the sweet stuff that you eat. So it is called glucose, right? And the mitochondria, it takes this glucose and oxygen and it turns it into energy, specifically ATP, right? ATP is a molecule that makes energy. And we'll talk more about what ATP is and how the mitochondria turns sugar and oxygen to ATP. But just another important thing to say is that mitochondria doesn't actually immediately take this sugar and turn it into energy. It actually has the sugar actually gets broken down inside of the cell, like in the cytoplasm first, and then it turns into something else, and then it goes into the mitochondria with oxygen, and then it turns all of that stuff into ATP. But that's a little bit more complicated, but just know that mitochondria's they just do these crazy things and turn sugar into energy, right? Just know that mitochondria, they turn stuff into energy. So yeah, I do want everyone to write these things down. Okay. Oh yeah, about the Blooket thing, I don't know if we have time to do that. So I guess next week we'll do a Blooket and a Gimkit to compensate for you guys. So sorry about that again. But yeah. So I have yet to actually renew my subscription for Gimkit yet and like make an account for Blooket. So I'll do that next week so that you guys can play Blooket. Yay. And Gimkit. So yeah.
You before week you say that's two.
I know, but like sorry, I was just a little busy, but next week I will definitely be making a Gimkit and Blooket. All right. I promise you guys. All right. I promise. So yeah, just to review or reiterate, mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell and it turns sugar into energy, right? Usable energy, of course. But we'll talk about how it actually does that in like another lesson. But just know that how you get energy is related to how the mitochondria works. Um, if you guys want to if you guys want to know how ATP sort of like makes energy right now, so ATP is a high energy substance, right? It's something that has a lot of energy in it. It stores this energy. And you have to break down ATP even more to actually release that energy for the cells to do things. And we'll talk about how it does that. All right, so okay, I'm pretty sure you guys are done. So let's go on to the next slide.
We just have like 3 page left, so I think we have more time.
Actually, yeah, you're right. You know what? Let's just do Blooket at the end of the lesson. Oh yeah, actually we do have enough time. Okay. Okay, that's awesome. Okay, so ribosomes. Ribosomes are responsible for making proteins in the cell, right? So what are proteins? Okay. So I did actually forget to sort of write down what proteins are, but it's all right. But essentially, ribosomes, they're these really, really small organelles. They're extremely tiny, right? It's represented as this brown dot in the cell, and it makes proteins. So what are proteins? So proteins are these guys, right? Over here on the right. Proteins do a lot of things for your body, right? And a lot of you guys know proteins build muscle, but proteins don't actually just build muscles. Proteins also do other things. They make hemoglobin, which is something in your blood, and it helps carry oxygen, right? When you breathe in oxygen, and hemoglobin is a type of protein inside of your blood that carries oxygen. We also have collagen. Collagen is another type of protein that makes up your skin. It makes your skin look better, and that's why a lot of skin products they have collagen in them. So that's what collagen is. It's another type of protein. And then we have antibodies. So this is a type of protein that helps fight infection. So when you're sick, your body makes antibody to fight these infections. So proteins can do a lot of things, and proteins, they can form a lot of shapes. They can form so many different types of shapes to do so many different things. Like there's almost an infinite amount of ways that protein can fold itself. So ribosome is something that makes protein. So it's sort of like a hand, right? It's made up of two bigger proteins and two different types, two proteins, and it's sort of like a hand, right? If you put your hand like this, sort of looks like a ribosome. That's basically what a ribosome is. And it takes something called mRNA to make protein, but this is not really that important. For this class, just know that ribosome, they make proteins, okay? All right, so I'll give everyone a few minutes to just write everything down. So, and then again, proteins, they're like this type of thing that does stuff for the body, right? Like antibodies, hemoglobin, collagen. And they help you build muscle.
Why can't we do Game Kit? Game Kit is more fun than Look It.
Oh, I don't think we can do GameKit because GameKit requires you to like basically pay money to play it. So that's like a bummer. And I didn't really make questions for like the GameKit right now. So we're gonna have to do GameKit next week. But it's okay because next week I'll have GameKits ready.
I think if you sign for teacher, it can have more people.
Yeah, so the problem is that after 2 weeks they make you pay money. But I found a way to basically not pay money. It's sort of just like make new accounts every single day. So yeah. Anyways. All right, so okay, let's talk about the nucleus, which is our last slide. And yeah, okay. So the nucleus is called the brain of the cell because it holds information for the cell to do things, right? So this is what the nucleus is. And if we go back to a few slides before, which is this part, you can see these like little blue dots, right? These are the nucleus. That's where all of the information, right? All of the things, the information that sort of like basically, you know, like the information that tells the cell to do things, right? That's where all the information is in the nucleus. Okay, so basically the nucleus is made up of three more things, right? But essentially just know that nucleus, they hold information that tells the cells to do things. So essentially nucleolus is the very center of a nucleus. So this is a nucleus right here, all right, the bottom left. This is a nucleus, and at the inside, is the innermost part of a nucleus is the nucleolus. And this part creates ribosomes. This is where ribosomes come from, okay? And then we have the actual nucleus, right? The actual nucleus is actually here. And this part, right, this yellow part, It basically surrounds the nucleolus and it creates DNA. Now, DNA is something that basically tells the cell to do things, right? To make proteins, to make all of that crazy things, right? To do things, right?
Is DNA a genetic code?
Yeah, so DNA is genetic code. And if you guys don't know what genetic code is, genetic code is basically like information that tells the cell what to do, like how to make proteins and stuff. So yeah, pretty good observation. So yeah, DNA is basically, or sorry, DNA holds genetic codes. DNA has genetic codes in them, right? And the cell translates that genetic code inside the DNA to make proteins and do other things. Now, the nuclear membrane basically protects the nucleus and nucleolus, right? It's just another membrane, and it lets the ribosome that are made inside of the nucleolus to pass through it. So yeah, I do want everyone to write this down. I don't really think we have a lot of time to do bullet kit, so I guess we can only do them next week. So sorry, guys. I know I promised you guys that we'll do Gimkit or bullet kit like this week, but unfortunately we can't. But it's okay. Next week, I promise you guys we will do them. And that if I don't, you guys can just you guys can hit me or something. Yeah. All right. So I'll give everyone a few minutes to just write this down. And I guess we can only draw the cell like next week also, but Leon just said you have to give me your address. Okay, sure, I will. If we don't do Gimkit next week, then I will do that. And you guys can all like throw eggs at my house or something. Okay. So I'll give everyone a few minutes to write this down. And then again, in the Gimkit, basically, I can see how much questions you get right or get wrong. So yeah, it's awesome. All right, so
If you don't do it, Nina put syrup in your hair.
yeah, I just saw that, and yes, I will do that if we don't do it. Okay, so we'll draw this cell next week because we are running a lot of time, and a lot of people did leave because they have other classes and other things to do. But yeah, thank you guys for coming to today's class, and the next week I'll be sure to do a Gimkit. And for the new students, thank you guys for staying till the end of the class. So yeah, thanks to everyone for joining today's class, and then I'll see you guys next week. Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye, Ellen.